Okay, so today we're going to talk about the 3 characters that you had to do yesterday on your own, which would be the friar, merchant, and clerk. Okay, so friar goes in what pyramid? What'd you say? The friar goes in which pyramid or position?
Like church.
Okay, he's on the church side. High, middle, or low?
Middle.
Low, middle. I would say if he's in the low, he's like at the higher end of the low or the lower end of the middle.
May I go
Okay.
to the restroom and grab
Yes.
the book?
Okay, so what's the friar's job in this society? Okay, to beg for money, to minister to the lowly people. Okay, remember in this drawing of the Underwood property, and we have this little town way down here in the corner who can never get up to the church to go to mass. So there would be friars that came around here and would minister to the people. Okay, do you get the impression that Chaucer supports this guy? Like, is he writing about him in a positive light, a negative light? So, like, in terms of the stereotype, is he getting good?
Yeah, good.
Okay, what makes you say that?
Because he says he's a very worthy man.
Okay, so part of the way we know is in specific adjectives that describe him. Okay,
That's the merchant.
And he talks
about
about
how
No.
and stuff.
This one
Who are
said
you
he has a
talking about?
noble past, but
Okay.
he exchanged forgiveness for
He didn't say
sexual
worthy
favors,
man.
so
Merchant.
not good.
okay, so at the beginning it says he was a worthy man, but Morgan, where did you find that part that you just talked about?
It's on the side somewhere. What page is this?
17.
17 and 18.
This isn't in the second
Number
one.
68 on the side, implying that the friar exchanged forgiveness for sexual favors.
Okay, so if you go
He
to
was arranged to marry many young women.
okay, so if you go to line 9 or 8, well liked by all and intimate was he, with franklins everywhere in the country. Okay, franklins are landowners or like vassals. So who's he friends with?
Rich people.
Rich people. For very sweetly did he hear, and with the worthy women of the town, for very sweetly did he hear confession, and pleasant also was his absolution. He was an easy man to give penance, when knowing he should gain a pittance. So it's easy to get forgiveness from him if you will.
Sleep with them.
No. What is pay him?
Oh.
Or for the women, perhaps you could sleep with him. Okay.
He was also like friends with all like the lepers and stuff that were sick.
Okay. So this one is kind of a hard one to interpret. Where does it talk about the lepers?
I think it's on the next page. Oh yeah, but the beginning of
So
the
is he married, or what
better
does it
than-
mean when they talk about him marrying stuff?
Okay. Let's go clear the
35.
bottom. So it says, in towns, I'm on line 30, clear at the bottom of page 17. In towns, he knew the taverns, every one, and every host and gay barmaid also, better than the beggars and lepers.
So he drank.
So, if this guy is doing his job, ministering to the poor people, who should he know in these towns?
The poor people.
The poor people, the sick people. Instead, who does he know?
Rich people that own.
the owners of town.
The owners of, like, he spends his time in the bar, flirting with the bartenders and the waitresses, cozying up with the rich people, not ministering to the poor and the sick. Okay? And it says on line 35, For unto no such solid man as he, as far as he could see, was it good to have lepers as acquaintances. So like he's actually like judgmental towards those people. Okay, so what can we infer Chaucer, the author, thinks about this guy and people like him, other people who do his job? Highly or poorly?
Poorly.
Poorly. Why? What do these people have the ability to do?
So is he saying he's supposed to be worthy or he is worthy? Like, why does he say that?
They can do good, but he's doing bad.
Okay,
Because he's not attending to the poor people.
okay, so we'll come back to the worthy word in just a second. Okay, so they should be doing good. Like maybe their position should be good. But what do many people in his position do?
Go after the rich.
Personal profit.
They go after personal profit. Remember I talked about this in the notes. It was one of the problems people had with what?
The Catholic Church.
The Catholic Church. There was too much opportunity for corruption. And friars were one of the ways that corruption happened. Now, does that mean every friar was doing this? No. Surely there were some good ones. But we could also infer from this stereotype that many of them were not good ones. Okay? That was number 10. Are you still numbering them? Did everybody get the memo to number them? So number 11, the merchant. Yep.
I skipped a couple pages or what?
No, you know
No,
those
it's like
people that were
stupid.
with
Like
a
some of
nun.
them, like are more
They have
than
numbers
one.
too. So
People that are with a nun?
yeah,
That's the only one that happens to, okay?
Which
it
one
goes
was
from 4 to 9.
So,
Prioress.
The prioress?
The prioress,
Prioress, and
and
then-
at the end of her thing it says, with her was a chaplain and 3 priests.
So they all have numbers too.
Oh, okay.
So when you go from that to 9.
So that's,
Okay,
prioress is 4, friar's 9.
yep.
The monk is 9.
No, monk is 10.
Friar is 10.
Monk
Oh,
is 9,
monk
friar
is
is
9,
10.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, you're right.
Okay, number 11, the merchant. What do we know about him?
He got a horse.
Okay,
Businessman.
This
trade.
worthy man kept all his wits well set.
okay.
Traded
So-
for.
No truth
He's a
to
businessman. How's he dressed?
He had a beaver hat.
Which would be,
Trapper.
He didn't like all the silks and stuff, he just.
what would the beaver hat tell us about his like economic position?
He's like
He's a trader.
lower,
Okay, trader.
spread lower.
It says, there was a merchant with a forked beard and belted in a multicolored gown, and high on a horse he sat, with a Flemish beaver hat upon his head.
What's Flemish?
Another country.
Oh, then he's
Or,
right
or
top.
area.
Top of the top.
Top. Okay, so he's dressed nicely. He's groomed even. Like his beard is groomed. Which would mean he has time for things like that. Which implies he has a job, like we'll say easy, I'm gonna use that word lightly, but it's like a white collar job, not a blue collar job. And what is his job?
White collar job.
He's a businessman.
It'd be like a
Yeah.
suit and tie.
Suit and tie. Like where you can wear a white shirt.
Is there a red collar job like nurses? Or is that blue collar?
That's not good.
Good question. Blue collar tends to be like working, like outdoor,
Blowing.
hard
Like
work, farmer,
construction.
construction, mechanic. White collar
Yours
is
would be red hot.
doctor, lawyer, businessman. Okay, so he's a businessman. What is his business?
Probably dehydrated.
Trading, and it says that in the side note. If you read those side notes, those side notes are very helpful. So he's a trader. And how does Chaucer describe him? Highly or poorly? Highly. He takes care of his money. He's responsible. He's good at his job. Where does he fit on the pyramid? Because this kind of workers are sort of neglected in the pyramid, but where would you think he goes? So we have royalty, nobility, knights and vassals, peasants. Where does he go?
Above the knight's name.
Maybe like technically you can't be nobility unless you have a title, but if he could go up to that class, he would. So definitely top of the working class. Okay, and then number 12 was the clerk. What do we know about him?
Oh, he's the
was
one who didn't
employed
have
by the
clothes.
church, and he was
He's
skinny.
fat.
I thought he was skinny. Because
Okay.
it say that him and his horse were skinny?
Okay, so
Yeah.
first thing,
I thought he said he was not too
Yeah.
fat, like he wasn't
Yeah.
fat enough.
okay, so in some stories, this person is described. His name is the Oxford cleric. Okay, so cleric. When you hear the word clerk, what do you think of?
Like the county clerk.
Okay, like your mom, my mom's the village clerk, so I'm right there with you. What does this person do? Like, it's a glorified, what kind of job? Desk job, right? Like a secretary. Okay, there are like so many different kinds of clerks. Okay, in the county, the clerk is the person that deals with a lot of the paperwork kind of stuff. Okay. In my mom's job, it's really the town secretary. Like, she does everything for, like, the town. She does the checks and all
Both
that
towns.
jazz. Both towns, yes.
Kosha and North Coupe.
Okay, this guy, what's his job?
He reads
employed
books
by the
all the time.
Okay,
Said nerd vibes.
so he's employed by the church,
Harry Potter.
and let's see where.
He instead of like having nice clothes, he'd rather buy books and sleep with the books instead of nice clothes.
Okay, so
Or
first thing, books are very, very expensive during this time period because there's no printing press. All books are handwritten, and so they're very expensive. And he has many books. Like most people, normal people in this time period would not even own a book in their house. Maybe a Bible, but that would be it. Because they're very expensive. But the clerk, he has a lot of them. So he has money, but he spends it on books. Okay, I get the impression from Chaucer that this guy's kind of like a joke. Like this is kind of a position that is useless or worthless. It's very frivolous in society. Like this whole position, all the people in the world that time that have this job, they don't even need to exist. Like they're useless. And the character is very frivolous. He spends his money on things that are unimportant, like books. Although to him they are important. One of the most famous lines from this story comes from his information here, which is the last one that says, "And gladly would he learn and gladly teach." So he is a good guy. He likes to share his knowledge. He's not like snotty, nerd vibes, definitely appropriate. Like he wants to tell people about all the great things he
Reminds me
knows.
like a guy at the Tinkerbell with the big glasses. No?
Yes.
How do you? I'm so sorry. So you reminds me.
Okay, let's do number 13. In this text, number 13 is the lawyer, although in many texts he's actually titled the sergeant at the law, or of the law, which it says in the first line. Okay, I want you to see as I read this if you can identify 2 lines from this passage that are very sarcastic. Okay, ready? Page 20, number 13, the lawyer. A sergeant of the law, wary and wise, who'd often gone to Paul's Walk to advise, there was also, compact of excellence. Discreet he was, and of great reverence, at least he seemed so, his words were so wise. Often he sat as justice in assize, by patent or commission from the crown. Because of learning and his high renown, he took large fees, and many robes could own. So great a purchaser was never known. And if you see there, a purchaser doesn't exactly mean what you think it does. All was fee simple to him, in effect, wherefore his claims could never be suspect. Nowhere a man so busy of his class, and yet he seemed much busier than he was. All cases and all judgments could he cite that from King William's time were apposite, and he could draw a contract so explicit, not any man could fault therefrom elicit. And every statute he verbatim quote. He rode but badly in a medley coat, belted in a silken sash with little bars, but of his dress no more particulars.
Is it, wherefore his claims could never be suspect?
Okay,
His words were so wise.
okay, so let's go to the top. So it says, discreet he was and of great reverence, or so it seemed.
Yeah, that was I didn't get my thumb on it for that.
So
one.
he's kind of a faker. Like, he puts on a show that he is this good and respectable lawyer, but there's a little bit of doubt.
What'd you say?
He puts on a show, but he's maybe not as respectable as he seems. You know those people that will just like quote stuff and you believe them because like who are you to question them? But if you actually listen to what they say, they're really not making sense. That's what I envision. So he's quoting laws all the time, quoting stuff. But it's like you're asking him about how to get divorced, and he's telling you about how to file a deed for a new property. But he's using all these big fancy words, so you don't know if he's telling the truth or not. Like, you're just like, oh yeah, he sounds smart, he must be right. That's what this guy is. Okay, how's he dressed?
Nice.
Nicely, which represents his
Silken sash.
his wealth. Yep, he's got a silken sash. Remember, silk is one of those fabrics that's kind of hard to get your hands on in this time period. One more. The Franklin. And it says in the side note, the Franklin is a landowner. Okay, there are some rare occurrences where a person who is not nobility could end up owning land. So let's say the Benson estate has no more heirs, but he has a vassal, a guy that's been working for him for like decades, maybe even his dad and his dad's dad, and all the vassals have been sons too. And so his property, maybe like a small bit of it, could be willed to that vassal, and he could raise himself up to be a Franklin instead of just a vassal. Very rare, but could happen. Also, let's say that you own the mill, like the sawmill in town. You could acquire more property, like, you know, say you're going to build on or something, but then you never do. But so you kind of accumulate property even though you're not nobility. Okay, there was a Franklin in his company. What does that mean?
There was a landowner.
With the lawyer.
With the lawyer, so they're like kind of traveling together. White was his beard, as is the white daisy. Of sanguine temperament by every sign, he loved right well in his morning sop and wine. Delightful living was the goal he'd won, for he was Epicurus's very son. That held opinion that a full delight was true felicity, perfect and right. Felicity means like happiness or peacefulness. A householder and a great was he. Saint Julian he was in his own country. His bread and ale were always right well done. A man with better cellars there was none. What do people keep in cellars? Wine or
Gold.
Children.
Things that don't spoil.
Things that don't spoil. It's like food. Okay, so this guy, he lives his life to be a host. Like, he wants people to come over to his house to enjoy his stores of food and wine. Baked meat was never wanting in his house, of fish and flesh, and that so plenteous it seemed to snow therein both food and drink, of every dainty that a man could think. According to the season of the year he changed his diet and his means of cheer. Full many a fattened partridge did he mew, and many a bream and pike and fish pond too. Woe to his cook, except the sauces were poignant and sharp, and ready all his gear. His table, waiting in hall always, stood ready, covered through the livelong day. At county sessions he was lord and sire, and often acted as a knight of the shire. A dagger and a trinket bag of silk hung from his girdle, white as morning milk. He had been sheriff and been auditor, and nowhere was a worthy vavasor. Okay, does Chaucer like this guy or not?
Yes.
Yes, this is the self-made man. So, he is proud of what he has. He likes to show it off to people.
Good morning, Central Valley. Our
And in
school
this
motto
case,
is
Chaucer
to
seems to
strive
respect
for
that.
others. Please join
Not
me in
like the
saying our
nobility
motto.
who are just given things, but he has really
Please stand for
worked
your
for it.
beliefs.